there's a quiet kind of exhaustion no one talks about. It doesn't show up in your body. It shows up in your soul. You wake up, open your eyes, and already feel behind. Not because your schedule is full, but because your spirit is empty. You've been busy, but not becoming. And some part of you knows it. You get dressed, do what you need to do, smile when it's expected. But underneath, there's that uncomfortable truth whispering in the background. I'm not living the life I promised myself. And if that hits you anywhere real, take a second now and subscribe. Because what you're about to hear might be the first honest conversation you've had with yourself in a long time. Let's be honest. You've said it before. Next week I'll get serious. You've written goals, imagined new habits, talked about the life you want. But every time, something pulls you back into the same cycle. You don't lack dreams. You lack the consistency to become the person who lives them. And that gap between who you are and who you want to be, it starts in a place most people never look: your thoughts. Not your skills, not your background, not your luck, but the silent, invisible patterns playing in your mind every single day. Thoughts you never questioned, beliefs you didn't choose, assumptions that run your life like a script, and you don't even remember agreeing to the role. Maybe that's why, deep down, you feel disconnected. You're not just tired, you're becoming someone you never intended to be. And the scariest part is, it's happening silently. So let me ask you, what if the reason you feel stuck isn't because you're doing the wrong things, but because you've been thinking the wrong thoughts? What if your mind's been driving your life, and you've never taken the wheel? Let's start there. Most people believe their life is shaped by what they do. Their habits, their decisions, their routines. But that's only the surface. Beneath all of it, like the root system of a tree, lives something far more powerful: what they think. Every choice you've made, every word you've spoken, every reaction you've had, all of it began as a thought. And the truth is, most of those thoughts were never examined. They just appeared, and you followed. You become what you think about, not because it's a motivational slogan, but because your thoughts quietly dictate the standards you accept, the identity you believe in, and the life you build one invisible brick at a time. If your thoughts are rooted in fear, you'll live in hesitation. If your thoughts are shaped by scarcity, you'll shrink from opportunities that were meant for you. If your inner voice keeps repeating, "I'm not enough," you'll act as if that's true, even when it's not. That's how it happens. Not in one dramatic moment, but slowly, silently, thought by thought, until one day you realize you've been building someone else's life. The power of this concept isn't just in what you become. It's in the fact that you're becoming something all the time, whether you choose it or not. Your mind doesn't pause just because you're tired or uncertain. It keeps planting. It keeps repeating. It keeps reinforcing the blueprint you gave it, or the one you never questioned. But here's the shift. If your thoughts can quietly shape your life in the wrong direction, they can just as powerfully reshape it in the right one. This is not about pretending everything is fine. It's about recognizing that your inner world is the starting point of every transformation. And once you understand that your thoughts aren't just noise, they're tools, you begin to reclaim your power, because nothing changes until the way you think does. If thoughts shape your life, then the question becomes, who's choosing your thoughts? Stephen Covey teaches that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our power to choose. But most people never enter that space. They live in reaction, to emotion, to opinion, to memory. And when you live in reaction, you give your power away. You become what you think about, yes. But more importantly, you become what you allow yourself to think about. That's where proactivity begins. It's not just about taking initiative on the outside. It's about reclaiming authorship on the inside. It's the decision to stop running old mental scripts and start writing your own. That's leadership, not over others, but over yourself. Covey didn't teach motivation. He taught principle-centered living. He said, "The ability to subordinate an impulse to a value is the essence of a proactive person." That means your thoughts don't have to own you. You can step back, observe them, and ask, does this thought align with who I want to be? With what matters most to me? With the legacy I want to leave? This is how you shift from being a product of your circumstances to being a product of your conscience. Because if you don't define your thoughts by values, they'll be defined by noise. And there is always noise. Proactivity is not about doing more. It's about living from the inside out, where your vision leads your behavior. Not your fear, not your fatigue, not the next notification. That's when change becomes possible. Not because the world slows down, but because you've stopped outsourcing your identity to it. So let me ask you, what thoughts have been shaping your life lately? And more importantly, did you choose them? Leave a comment and share what came up for you. Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. If your thoughts are shaping your life, then it's time to shape your thoughts with intention. This isn't about trying to think positive and pretending everything's okay. It's about interrupting the autopilot. And that starts small. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, ask yourself one simple question. Who am I becoming today? Not what you have to do or who needs something from you, but who you choose to be when no one's watching. You can even set an alarm with that question. Let it ring mid-morning when you're deep in your routine. That small interruption might wake you up from patterns that no longer serve you. At night, before bed, write down 3 values that matter to you that day, not as a performance, but as a practice. Did I honor what I believe in today? Did I react or did I respond? These small reflections begin to pull you back to yourself. Another shift: change your language when you speak about your life. Instead of saying, "I'm always overwhelmed," try, "I'm learning to prioritize what really matters." That one word, learning, gives you back your power. It repositions your story from stuck to growing. You don't need fancy tools. You need presence. You need the willingness to step into that space Covey described. The space between what happens and how you choose to respond. You could even create a mirror statement. One sentence that reminds you who you're becoming. Write it. Tape it to the bathroom mirror. Say it every morning, even if your voice shakes. Replace 10 minutes of passive scrolling with something that builds you. A journal, a podcast, a moment of silence. These aren't tasks, they're declarations. They say, I am no longer becoming by default. And if that feels hard to sustain, start with one choice. One moment. One act of alignment. You don't need to fix everything, just begin. Take a breath. Not just the kind that fills your lungs, but the kind that makes you feel, even for a moment, that you've landed. Here, in yourself. Now ask gently, not with pressure, but with honesty. When was the last time you paused long enough to really hear yourself think? Not the outer noise, not the voice you use to get through the day, but the one buried beneath the roles you play, the one that quietly wonders, is this really who I've become? Most people never stop long enough to ask. They're too busy keeping up, too tired, too used to the weight they carry to even notice it's heavy. But maybe you've been feeling it. In the way you hesitate to trust your own decisions. In the way you say yes when you mean no. In the way you scroll at midnight. Not because you're curious, but because you're avoiding the quiet. There are beliefs you carry that were never yours. Stories handed down from fear, conditioned by failure, reinforced by repetition. I don't finish things. I always mess it up. I'm just not that kind of person. But what if none of that is the truth? What if it's just a pattern? One that got repeated enough to feel like identity? You don't need to be fearless. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to look inward, with courage, and ask the questions most avoid. Where am I shrinking myself? What thought am I still obeying? That I never agreed to believe? Real change doesn't begin when the calendar turns. It begins when you get tired of hiding from yourself. When honesty becomes more valuable than comfort. And maybe, just maybe, that moment is now. If something inside you stirred, if this felt like truth more than advice, tap the like button, not for the sake of the video, but as a quiet signal, a nod to yourself, that this reflection mattered. Lasting change doesn't happen because you start doing different things. It happens because you start seeing yourself differently. You've probably tried to force new habits before. Waking up earlier, cutting distractions, staying focused, and maybe they worked for a while, until they didn't, until life got loud again, and the old version of you came back. That's because habit without identity is just behavior on a timer. Eventually, it runs out. But when you shift how you see yourself, when you decide, deep within, I am no longer this person, and I am choosing to become someone else, that's when real change begins. Transformation doesn't come from outside in. It begins in that quiet space inside, where you choose who you want to be, and let that choice ripple outward into what you do. You don't have to be the person who always breaks promises to themselves. You don't have to be the one who avoids mirrors, or shrinks in conversations, or lives as a watered-down version of your potential. You can choose to be the person who builds trust with themselves again, who wakes up with intention, who speaks with clarity, who walks into rooms knowing they are aligned with something bigger than approval. That identity is not a fantasy. It's already in you. Quiet, patient, waiting for space to lead. Every time you choose a thought that reflects that version of you, you're building it. Every time you act from that place, you reinforce it. You're not faking it. You're remembering, reclaiming, becoming. Because you were never meant to live in reaction. You were meant to live in alignment. So as you sit with everything we've uncovered, ask yourself, not what you need to fix, but who you're now willing to become. Not tomorrow, not one day, now. Let that decision settle in your chest. Let it move with you into the next breath. The journey isn't finished yet, but it's no longer silent. There's a kind of silence that isn't empty. It's full of knowing. And maybe that's what this moment is. Not a finish line, not a conclusion, but a doorway, a soft invitation to step out of who you've been by default and into who you're ready to become by design. You don't need a dramatic breakthrough. You don't need the perfect plan. What you need is a return to intention, to presence, to the part of you that's always known. You were made for more than reactivity, because this life you're living, it's not neutral. It's being shaped every day by the thoughts you feed, by the words you accept, by the beliefs you wear like second skin. But now, you see it. And once you see, you cannot unsee. You carry something now, a deeper awareness, a new responsibility. And that's a gift, not a burden. It means you can choose again. You can think deliberately. You can move with clarity. You can stop waiting for something to wake you up. Because you've already begun. You're no longer a passenger in your own mind. You're the one behind the wheel. And yes, there will be days when you drift. Days when old thoughts return. But you'll remember this moment. That you once paused, reflected, realigned. And that memory will call you back. You don't need to chase motivation. You need to live from meaning, from values, from vision. And if something here echoed in your soul, if it reminded you of who you truly are beneath the noise, then subscribe, not just to this channel, but to the quiet discipline of becoming, the slow work of building a life that reflects what matters most. Let this be the line in the sand, not dramatic, but real, not loud, but lasting. Your mind is not a machine to control. It's a garden to tend. And today, you planted something sacred. You become what you think about. So think in alignment. Think in truth. And then become. Without apology.